I'm garbage on anything, anything Apple.
See, and I have an iPhone, and Vicky's got the MacBook Air, so I'm familiar with them. I've used them a little bit, but I prefer to do video editing and stuff on PC, which I think is not the norm. It seems like people typically like the idea of the other.
People love like all of that. Same thing when I was doing music. Everyone was like, "Get a Mac," and I was the same way. I never had anything running through a Mac. I just don't know how to use it.
And see, GarageBand is like super user friendly, but almost to the point that it makes everybody able to make music on it. And when somebody's like, "I made this in GarageBand," I'm like, "Did you make it, or did you use a bunch of prepackaged loops?" You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of times prepackaged loops.
What's going on, you guys? Oh yeah, sorry. Hey Caleb, we were recording. What's going on, you guys? Welcome. I'm Jeremy, and movies are terrible. And joining me here on the phone is Caleb to my immediate, screen right. And to Caleb's immediate right is Kitty Cat. Does the cat have a name? Do you know?
I have no idea. I just saw the picture online, and I thought it was funny because it was like, yeah, I had those exact sunglasses.
Well, the least we can do is fucking name this guy. So if you guys have any suggestions down in the chat, down in the comments section about what we should name this kitty cat, just let us know. We'd love to hear your suggestion. Keep in mind that tis the season for Halloween, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the latest Halloween, and actually we're going to have a conversation from that to a bunch of movies that are in production right now, most of them being reboots to very successful horror films pretty much throughout time, even to really recently. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get to that in a little bit, and as always, we're going to start it off with what are you watching. But before that, Caleb's got an actual interesting story that I haven't heard about yet. I got a picture earlier today from the doctor's office of a bunch of people that had evacuated because of some gas. What happened, man?
So keep in mind, I'm very much a stereotypical guy. Never go to the doctor. So I probably haven't been to the doctor, I'm not even joking, probably like a decade. So I was going for just like I was like, I need to go to the doctor. So I finally go in there, finally get into the back, we're, waiting. Where the nurse already sees us, and they're like, your doctor will be back. We hear a knock on the door, and I thought, okay, the doctor's coming in. They're like, we are evacuating the building due to a gas leak. So we go outside and have to wait, and then the fire department shows up, and they have to make sure everything's clean and like shut off the gas and track down this gas leak. So I was going on my lunch break. I never made it back to work after this because, well, that ate up my entire day, was just waiting to go to this damn doctor's office visit. But I was like, oh yeah, this is not a good first experience back to a doctor's office, probably.
No, it's discouraging, I'm sure. It's like, man, this is why I don't come to the fucking doctor. Every time there's some sort of major gas leak, did they say what kind of gas it was? I mean, because if it was nitrous, I'd be running into that motherfucker.
I don't know what it was, but I heard a couple of the nurses talking. They said they were starting to feel loopy. So I have no idea what it was.
Always good to know that the hospitals have gas leaks as well. Well, that's cool. So we were talking a little bit also online over Twitter about kind of what we've been watching, which is a segment that we do. And I've caught a couple of movies at the theater lately, and you were kind of mentioning that there's a lot of shit on Netflix, and there's actually a couple of those that I wanted to bring up and ask you about. Figuring at least one of them will be right up your alley. Have you seen, it's the new Thai martial arts movie, kind of similar, or no, not Thai, Indonesian martial arts movie on Netflix now? What's it called?
Honestly, I don't know which one that is.
I think you were a fan of The Raid, or did you see The Raid and The Raid 2?
I saw them when I was extremely drunk, so I don't remember anything about those movies.
Dude, they are so dope. Like what Jackie Chan did, it's a serious take on that kind of, stunts and choreography, that kind of similar idea, obviously what Bruce Lee does. Mm-hmm. It's just got this really visceral style, though, similar to like Old Boy with the hatchet scene, or the hammer scene, excuse me, or then like Snowpiercer with the fucking hatchets when they're going through those little dark tunnels. The movie I'm talking about, though, sorry, I got totally fucking sidetracked. Imagine that. The Night Comes for Us. Have you seen anything about that?
Oh no, I actually put it in my queue in my list, but I never actually watched it yet. It was like everything else. I have like 4,000 movies in my list that I'm never gonna touch.
I add a bunch of shit to my queue that I haven't come back and watched either. So I haven't seen this one, but it's just one that I'm interested in. I'd imagine you would be interested in it if you would get around to watching the shit. But we'll see. It could totally suck. I've been hearing kind of good things about it. So let's see. I guess the only other movie I saw Halloween today, which we'll get to in a second, but I saw The Hate You Give on 2 nights ago, and it was good, man. I hadn't even really heard anything about that one ahead of time. I just read something by a critic earlier that day, but prior to that, I think I'd seen a trailer and then just totally forgot about it. It wasn't something that was heavily marketed, but it's basically, I don't want to be reductive. It's like Black Lives Matter, the movie. It's a fictionalized account of routine traffic stop gone wrong, and a kid gets shot and killed by a police officer, and then it's just like the fallout of this girl being the witness to it and trying to decide whether she wants to go forward and be a public witness, or if she wants to, stay behind the scenes and not be an advocate because of the negative attention that it brings to you and stuff. So it was good, man. It felt like a really well done after school special. Like, I liked it a lot, but it was very,
I don't know
it
if
had
that's
a
a
specific
compliment.
point. I know it sounds like a sideways compliment. Okay, so I liked it, but it's a melodrama. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It
Yeah,
does
it
what it's
sounds like
trying to
something
do.
that'd be kind of interesting, though. I mean, overall, it does definitely sounds like something that I would definitely like to watch.
Yeah, it's a recommendation, and it's a pretty strong recommendation. It's just I was pretty aware to again, it just is, it has to be on the nose. It's like racial tensions is this really, really prickly and complicated, weird thing, and it's hard for any movie or any one screenwriter to be able to nicely put a bow on that. So the filmmaker doesn't try, so it feels like it's, it's just presenting us with this same problem that's like, yeah, it fucking sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it sounds like something that I really think sounds interesting. I've never seen, I'm sure that this can't be the first, but I've never personally seen a
I
Black
haven't
Lives
either.
Matter movie.
No. All right, well, yeah, check it out and let me know what you think about it. I'm curious to hear. I think the critics are generally loving it. It's got like a 96 on Rotten Tomatoes, so percentage-wise, people are enjoying it.
Been watching anything else, or is that kind of where you've been?
That's what I saw, and then today I went and I went ahead and watched the new Halloween movie. But did you catch anything this week? Anything you want to talk
The only
about?
the only thing I've been watching, just with my limited time, I've been watching Haunting on Hill House. I'm now on episode 7. It is good. I do not see what everyone else sees in it. It's so I actually think you probably would like it. It reminded me a lot of Hereditary. My problems that I had with Hereditary,
Sure.
where to me Hereditary was not really a horror film; it was more of a drama, and that's kind of how this is. But there is the bent neck lady episode, episode 5, is phenomenal. It's like a 10 out of 10 episode. But everything else for there, it's just kind of more, to me, same thing, kind of a little bit melodrama about people's, mental health and about life and this family. And for me, I don't know, I wanted more.
That's
You really
interesting.
wouldn't change a story much so far.
I've heard kind of similar things about it. Maybe heavy and dramatic, but yeah, I'm interested to check it out. I did see the pilot, and I like the atmosphere of it, but I just a lot of shit going on, a lot of computer issues preventing me from doing stuff. I did go and see Halloween today, though. I went and saw that shit at like 4 o'clock this afternoon, which is not the best time to see a horror movie. There was like 2 other people in the audience, which I know that's some people's dream, but I would have liked to have seen it on opening night with the most enthusiastic crowd. But then that could go That could go very poorly if you're, you know, depending on the crowd that you have. So anyways, I went in with Victoria this afternoon, and I ended up really liking it, man. I think it's enjoyable. I think my best summation of it, I thought about this before we went live. It is a good slasher movie, probably the best slasher movie post-Scream that isn't ironic and is still, it's like earnest and it's not shitty. You know what I mean?
Did you like the Rob Zombie remakes of Halloween?
No. Did you?
Oh, I absolutely loved them.
Good.
Well, the first one. The second one I never saw.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, or maybe I did see the second one and I wasn't that impressed with it. But yeah, the first one I liked because I thought it was a darker, more realistic take on it, and that's kind of what I'm hoping out of this. I'm hoping closer to that and less Halloween H2O.
Yeah, it definitely is, man. That, you know, there's a sensibility that modern audiences, or an expectation that people have. So yeah, they've ramped up the gore factor. But the thing that I did not like about Halloween, Rob Zombie version 2007 or 2009, is that none of the characters weren't just unlikable, they were just reprehensible. And I know that was an artistic choice by Zombie, but that was hard for me to get past. I mean, is that something that you know, see as a stylistic choice watching it?
Yeah, I actually don't mind that. But it's definitely a movie where you are not necessarily rooting for the main characters, which I do agree is total opposite of the original Halloween. The original Halloween is Jamie Lee Curtis. She's a very sympathetic character. Yeah. She's a very likable character. And I would agree it's the exact opposite of that.
But original. In a way, that's
I liked
a good thing.
I thought it was good.
The fact that he tried something different, and we'll come back around to this in a little bit, but the fact that he tried something different, I mean, there is kind of value in that, where this is kind of, and I don't want to get into spoilers. I know some of you guys hadn't seen it yet and are waiting a little closer to Halloween, but it feels kind of like one of the soft reboots that we've seen. I mean, obviously it's called Halloween again, but it feels like another of the soft reboots, similar to Predator most recently, but more specifically Jurassic World is what I was kind of feeling, is like, there's a lot of homage. There's a lot of scenes that are almost recreations. There's a lot of beats that are similar. So it's in air quotes that you can't see. It's paying homage, and I don't know whether that means it's ripping it off or it's doing it justice. But it did a really good job of recapturing what the first one looked and felt like. And the score on the new shit is so good, dude.
So it's kind of like the new trend of make it like the original, just slightly different, like Force Awakens, Jurassic World, those type of things.
Yes. Yeah. But I think, yeah, pretty much. I don't know. I think it's a crowd pleaser, though. I walked out of there like, fuck yeah. And I think the big selling point is the kills aren't super graphic and elaborate like in a Friday the 13th movie, but they make you give a shit about the characters. It does just enough of a good job humanizing them to where you're like, oh, I don't really want to see this person get fucking stabbed to death. That sucks, you know, which is good. It's something I don't get in a lot of horror movies, because a lot of times you're just like, all right, these motherfuckers are here to die. I've accepted that.
Yeah, there's a lot where you're just rooting for the bad guy. I always think of like Jeepers Creepers, not the original one, but all the other ones. Like, that was the whole point, is you were just rooting for the bad guy.
Isn't it ironic that the director ends up being a straight-up creeper?
Who directed those?
His name is Victor Silva. He directed that movie Powder, but before that, there was a movie called Clown House. It was very into the 80s. Oh, shit, man. Cheap headphones are crapping out on me. Anyways, it's from like the very end of the 80s, and there's 3 young brothers that their parents go out, and these 3 psychopaths escape from the circus, dress up like clowns, and come and torment the house. Kind of cool premise. I enjoyed the movie as a kid. It comes out years later that the dude was diddling the fucking youngest of the brothers on the set and in the dressing room or trailer or whatever, and he got convicted for it.
Oh, I didn't know about that. Oh, that changes that movie entirely.
Yeah, man. I hear you. I think the first one's good, man. But like, after I got the context, have you seen the second one?
Yeah, I didn't like the second, or I never saw the third, but I didn't like the second.
I remember thinking, and I'm a pretty open-minded dude, but I remember, and it doesn't matter if it is, but it felt like pretty blatant homoeroticism with all of the high school boys, like, taking off their shirts on the bus when the bus broke down, and then, like, with that context, I'm like, oh, man, this movie's an excuse for this guy to get his jollies.
And it was the same director on that one as well?
Yeah, man, he's done all of them. Part 3 just came out as well, and a lot of horror communities are having that discussion, like, I like the other 2 movies. Should I feel like a piece of shit for liking this one?
It's the Bryan Singer debate. I like X-Men, but it's Bryan Singer.
Yeah. Even though with Bryan Singer, it's like mostly allegations, but it's like that man's got so much hush money. He's just like paying these motherfuckers off, I'm sure.
And so, yeah, it's a lot of hush money.
What are we talking about? I'm like sitting here speculating, spreading hateful misinformation about this man. I don't know Bryan Singer. He might be just fine, but he seems like a creeper
he might.
to me.
But there's just, I don't know. It's kind of like the thing when you get a certain amount of allegations. I always said like 1 allegation, 2 allegations. Yeah. I'm like, well, you never know. But like 14 or how many ever he's gotten, it's a little much.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So let's go ahead and move out of Halloween and the fact that this was kind of a soft reboot and talk about something kind of crazy that I heard right in the hype. First of all, Halloween was made for like $10 million and it opened at $76 million, I think, here in the U.S., which is, I mean, fuck, dude, it's 7 times its budget in one weekend. And this Blumhouse model of movie making has proven to be so efficient. I mean, you're familiar with this studio.
Oh yeah, I've thought their way of doing it is it's a real traditional horror film way. In fact, I think horror films are better with lower budgets.
Absolutely.
And I think that not seeing everything up front because of restrictions lends well to horror and increases it. So I think their model is golden, and I think they'll obviously find success with it, and they'll continue to stick to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like other studios are taking note. Obviously, It was a pretty good example of another studio coming out, and they did spend quite a bit more money. I think that was about a $50 million movie, but it made gangbusters. And I know making $1 million is making $1 million as opposed to, $100,000. Smaller stakes don't generate as much reward, but there's not as much risk. When you're guaranteed to make 10 times the profit of something, that seems like a better bet than having a 50% chance of recouping your fucking $150-200 million movie, you know?
Yeah, it seems like I feel like if people could get I see this with video games too right now. If people could take down their budgets, because you'll see movies that make a gangbuster of money. Batman vs Superman, a good example. So I had made gangbusters of money, and they were like, well, it wasn't that profitable. They made a little bit of money for what they spent on it.
Yeah.
And it's like that movie, realistically, it probably would have been a better movie if they cut the whole Doomsday part out and got that budget smaller, and they would have made more money.
Yeah, that would have been a totally different movie. That's kind of what we were all promised, but then the trailers let us know, like, it's a Doomsday movie.
Yeah, I think I'm hoping more studios lean into that sort of filmmaking.
So, what about basketball players? Fucking, turns out LeBron James is set to produce Friday the 13th reboot. I think there was another one of these back in 2009 that was legit. Did you see that one?
Yeah, it's another one that I liked. I also all the Friday 13th movies are garbage, even the first one. So,
100%.
So like
100%.
So like when I remember that movie came out, a lot of people hated them. I'm like, yeah, like I actually think Halloween is a good movie, Yes. But I would not put Friday. I would not put Friday 13th in that same category.
No.
I would put that in more of a campy, fun category.
So what about the first Nightmare on Elm Street?
I don't like Nightmare on Elm Street, any of them.
Man, I think the first one's so good. I think the first one of those is my favorite of the 3. Halloween's better. But I think that idea of Freddy Krueger was just a fucking smart approach to it. And I don't think they ever exploited the dream aspect of it as much as they could. But it led to some really creative set pieces and weird Freddy snakes eating people whole and shit. But yes,
I like the concept
silly.
a lot more than I like the movies. I agree with that.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, LeBron James, man, he said that he wanted to be the first billionaire athlete. This article that I'm checking out is via Variety, and it's just kind of talking about the fact that he has spoken publicly about doing, let's see, Roy Lee's Vertigo Entertainment and LeBron James' Spring Hill Entertainment are in talks to acquire the rights to a new Friday the 13th movie. I did hear just kind of through other journalists, or I should say through journalists, not other journalists, through journalists that fucking it's gonna be tricky because the rights to Friday the 13th are not as cut and dry as to some other movies.
Yeah, I could imagine because with the 45,000 movies they've made,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some licensing issues at this point.
Yeah, they got tangled up with New Line Cinema with the whole Jason Goes to Hell, if I'm not mistaken, which totally changed what they were doing with Jason. And then Jason X was even another weird direction. But yeah, the 2009 version, I think, was Platinum Dunes, which is Michael Bay's horror division. And they've done quite a few things, including A Quiet Place, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, they did do A Quiet Place.
Which is great, you know, and that's another example of a very low-budget movie just making fucking gangbusters at the box office. So after seeing Halloween, it makes me even less enthusiastic to see Friday the 13th, you know? That's kind of where I'm at. Is this something that you'd be interested in? I mean, he could offer such a fresh and fucking crazy take that I'd be on board. But if it's just another Friday the 13th movie, I'm good.
That's kind of where I am. Like, the idea of Halloween being kind of essentially, you know, another Halloween movie doesn't seem to bother me because I'm a bigger Halloween fan. But like,
yeah,
the idea of another Friday 13th is like, I've seen this a million times. There's like two good ones in, maybe like not even good, like decent ones in the entire franchise. One of them is the one where it's not actually Jason Voorhees in it. That's like one of the few ones because they did something different.
Yeah, I like that one. All right, there was, I think it was The Next Chapter.
Yeah, I think so. Is that 5 off the top of my head?
I might be wrong. I think maybe I'm talking about Jason Lives, and you're correct. I'm thinking about the one where he gets struck by lightning at the beginning and like turns into super zombie and kills that one dude, punches straight through his heart and punches through his chest and has his heart. It's that one. It's like it knows what it is. I think fucking Friday the 13th Part 3D did though too. To be fair, it was like we're going all in with the campiness of it.
Same thing with what Jason Goes to Manhattan.
Yeah, the boxing scene, dude. That's a classic.
It's so ridiculous.
So ridiculous.
I've seen every one of those movies for being bad movies, though, so I can't talk too much crap because I've watched them all.
Oh yeah, multiple times, and I still get a kick out of it. They're like they're made for not, you know, they're made to ironically watch. I think as a kid, you're like, oh, this is an endurance test. I'm gonna stay up and watch something scary, and then it just kind of became a tradition, I think, for me. So yeah, I don't know. I think that 2009 one was cool because it did slightly pivot towards like now Jason's a survivalist living off of the fucking resources in Camp Crystal Lake, and like he's just been like hunting and honing his murder skills over the past couple decades. I thought that was unique and something we hadn't seen in the other ones.
Yeah, that's very true. It was a different take on it. I only saw it once. It's one of those ones that I actually probably should go back and watch because it's been years. I saw it when it came out. Honestly, never thought about it again. It was one of those films that
sure.
I remember everyone hated it, but at least everyone in my circle hated it when it came out, and I was like, why? I was like, it's Jason.
I mean, you know, objectively, I'd say it's probably the best Jason movie ever made.
I would agree with that too, 100%.
I wouldn't say it was my favorite, but fuck, I mean, they tried. They had money and they tried. I think those other ones were just blatant cash grabs. I know we all do love these franchises because we grew up on them, but I mean, fuck, they just crank them out year after year, the same basic shit. Saul's been doing it for years. I don't know. How do you as they're coming out theatrically, have you kept up with any of these series like Final Destination or Saw or Paranormal Activity?
I didn't even like the first Saw, so I never saw any of the others. But Paranormal Activity, I never saw that one either. But I did watch a couple of the Final Destinations, and then got to a point where it was just like, I think it was like the first three I watched, and then I was kind of just done with them.
So I like the first Saw a lot. I like the first Hostel pretty good. I've watched all of the Paranormal Activity movies, and I like that experience pretty good. I know how cheap of a trick it is. It's just a very cheap parlor trick of silence, 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 bam, and repeat over and over again. But it's cool to see it with an audience and just kind of get that experience. So I really enjoy going to watch horror movies, but then I just have to like look at myself afterwards and be like, all right, was that really a good movie, or did you just like watching that movie? Because I went and saw Hellfest a couple of weeks ago. Did you even see the trailers for that?
I did. It looked horrible, but it looked like it'd be a fun time to go see with an audience.
That's exactly what it was. It was super low budget, but the fact that it was in a haunted house, I was like, oh, that's a novel enough premise for a free movie to go see with my fucking AMC subscription, which I don't know if I've told you guys that are listening right now, but if you do not have that, and this message is not brought to you by AMC, but you should get that shit. If you go to one movie a week and it's not on Tuesday night, you're like already saving money. But if you go twice a week, it's ridiculously beneficial. But you still use Movie Pass for 10, right?
No, I canceled that shit.
Yeah, I understand. Eventually it just got crazy.
Well, and then even my thing, the whole reason I canceled for that is they had that notice of, if you choose to cancel, you'll be banned. You won't be able to come back for a year. And I'm like, don't fucking threaten me. That's shitty business. So I canceled on principle alone.
Yeah, there you go. Like, fuck you.
Like, that's the awful business practices. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to deal with that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of why I liked AMC in the beginning. I was like, yeah, I'll gladly pay twice as much because you can go down there to the theater and actually talk to somebody. And that was like actually a thing to me. Call me old fashioned, but after trying to get a hold of MoviePass via their Chat Now feature on their app, I was like, man, it sucks to not be able to like call customer service.
I'm thinking about trying Cinema or whatever it's called, because there's the AMC that I have is like the only one that's even close to me is like 15 miles away.
Oh yeah, okay.
Which I know doesn't sound crazy, but I live in the city, so that could be 45-minute drive.
Yeah, right, right.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. So even though that seems like the best model right now.
So did you check out those Predator posters? I know this is a little off subject. Did you see those weird fucking things?
I think they are amazing, and I want one so bad. I don't know where the hell I think the Marty McFly one.
Yeah, dude, they're fantastic. I'm trying to find the picture of them right now to put up on. Oh crap! I gotta type it in real quick.
They look like stuff I would want on it. I'd wear those on like a T-shirt or something, like a black T-shirt with that just big square right smack dab screen printed on the center. That's an awesome, awesome shirt.
I don't want to say like they. I mean, they kind of have an Ed Hardy-esque. No, that's not true. But they're bold and they're colorful and they're like. Okay, here we go. I can pull them up for you guys now. Neon colors. At first I was like, is that a girl Predator? Was my very first instinct, but then I realized, oh no, it's just like a different interpretation. I wonder who came up with these fucking things though, because I've never seen movie posters anything like this, and it's great. Like,
they look like something you'd find on DeviantArt. That's what they look like. Like, they're not the best drawn, they're not the greatest things, but they're awesome.
That is true. That's kind of what I was thinking. It's like, I don't know, design can be an interesting thing, and it's like, South Park succeeded not looking polished and great, but like the one where he's sitting there with the headphones in front of the alien computer and the other two predators are just like watching him. He's got his headphones on. It's fucking weird, dude. I like it.
I don't understand the marketing, but after seeing the movie, it kind of fits for me. I think it's actually really spot on marketing, because to me that's the vibe the film had. It was very tongue-in-cheek and just kind of having fun with it, you know?
Oh, sure.
And I think those honestly probably fit the tone of the movie better than the actual movie posters did here.
I mean, it's no secret, I don't think, to any of our listeners or viewers that the Predator's mouth looks kind of like a pussy. And it's funny that the artist decided to paint the helmet in a different color in the pussy region to make it look exactly like a sniz, when that's never really been. I mean, all the helmets are always monochromatic. They're like one fucking color, but for some reason they've decided to color in this one little area. Oh man, I wish you could look at it right now. Just keep that in mind, Caleb. I want you to, once we get off.
I'm gonna go back and look at it. Yeah,
it's a sniz. But yeah, I'm looking at the Marty McFly one right now. That shit is too funny. All right. Well, anyways,
that's the one I want. I want that on a shirt.
Good stuff. Good stuff. What the fuck, man? We need more posters that aren't just like cascades of actor heads. Did you like the not even did you like the Grudge? Did you like the renaissance of American remakes of Japanese horror movies?
No, and we had this kind of conversation on our Japanese horror special, or Asian horror special more particular. There's elements of Asian horror film that I like, but on a whole, it's not necessarily something I love. But they're different. But once you kind of see one, you realize that they're just as derivative as our horror films are on our stuff. Like you've seen one, you've seen them all. Just like our horror films. You've seen one slasher film, you've pretty much seen them all. They're kind of the same way. They're just a different type of horror film. So I'm not really into it, but I don't find it offensive either.
I definitely can see where you're coming from. I do. Obviously, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule, but even the similarities between The Ring and The Grudge are pretty hard to overlook. But then you realize, well, like, yeah, they can't have all of that much variation to us because everybody's got dark hair and dark eyes. And, I mean, granted, that white ghostly look I think is from folklore, so I don't know, I give it a pass in a lot of those things because there's a cultural specificity to it that I think gives it this weird this otherworldly horror, this thing that I'm not used to seeing. It's something that obviously, like you said, after you have gotten familiar with them, there are a lot of tropes there, but that's true of, I mean, fuck, from mobster movies to country westerns.
That's true of everything.
Yeah.
One of my favorite mediums, anime. I love anime. What got me into it was when I first started watching anime. I was like, man, there's nothing like it. Then you watch a bunch of them, and you're like, no, they're all the same.
Yeah,
I still enjoy all of them, but they're pretty much all the same thing. Not all, but most of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's fair. I do think that's... I think a lot of people would definitely agree with you. I never saw The Grudge versus The Ring, but that was the last. It was 2016 of those official Japanese Grudge or Ring movies was released. And I got to say, I think The Grudge is so unnerving. And it's shit that happened in The Ring as well with the body contortionist. But the scene where the female ghost is coming down the staircase and like all contorting and covered in blood is just... It's like otherworldly. There's something just unnatural and fucked up looking about it.
Yeah, you definitely, like you said, it definitely has a vibe of like yokai, traditional Japanese horror. Like it is heavily stoked in lore and like mythology, and that's evident in it more so than I guess not more so than ours. They're literally like steeped in mythology the way stuff like for us.
Sure. Yeah. So, I guess with that said, are you super stoked about the 2019 release date for the reboot?
No, I won't even see it. That's when I actually will pass.
Yeah. I didn't see Rings, which apparently was like the soft reboot of that franchise, but I just missed me with that shit. If people would have been raving about it, I would have been like, okay, I'll go check it out and see what it's about, but... Yeah, I think it's just kind of it's a franchise past its prime.
For me, if I'm going to see a Japanese reboot, American reboot of a Japanese franchise, I'd rather just see an entirely new franchise, like one that we haven't seen rebooted, because there's thousands of these in Japanese horror. Like Uzumaki is one that pops into my head. Do an American remake of Uzumaki. That would be something that would I'd find more interesting, because at least we haven't seen the American version. But I'm like, we're literally at the point now where we're watching remakes of remakes of remakes.
Yeah, yeah. Halloween is the third Halloween movie. It's the anyways. This all of this negative news about reboots, or to be negative about all of these stories about reboots, to come to one that I actually kind of fucking love the idea of, and that is that SyFy is making Killer Clowns from Outer Space and Critters films, two artistic masterpieces in the first place. So, I mean, fuck it, right? I mean, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this?
So this is one of those things that I think you and me are on the same page with. I am so fucking excited for this. This is one of the few remakes I'm like, no, I actually would. I would watch these. Like, these are something that do interest me, because so Killer Clowns from Outer Space is one of those things I grew up on. Absolutely loved it as a child. Always grew up on it. Always was obsessed with it. So I'm very excited to see all of this.
Hell yeah, dude. That's funny.
Yeah, are they going to do? I wonder if they're going to do it very tongue in cheek, or if they're going to somehow attempt to do it more serious. I'm hoping they still keep it tongue in cheek.
Yeah, I think they're going to keep the spirit of both of them, which are just like they're B movies in the first place. So there's really nowhere to go but up. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen is they make another shitty Killer Clowns movie or another shitty Critters movie. And I love that idea because there's a brand recognition to it, but it's a property that, like, yes, yeah, people do love it. I totally grew up watching both of these movies and loved them. But that said, going back and revisiting them, it's like, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that updated with a little bit better production. But then, fuck, dude, Sci-Fi Channel varies quite a bit in quality from movie to movie, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't know if better production is something we're going to get out of Sci-Fi. We might actually even get worse production than they already have. But
yeah. Would a lower budget entice you, or would it push you away from the prospect?
From Killer Clowns, it wouldn't bother me at all. So Killer Clowns, I want them to keep the tongue in cheek. I kind of would like to see Critters get a little more serious and a little more higher budget, because that's definitely better than Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Like, the whole point of Killer Clowns is to be campy. I mean, not that Critters isn't, but Critters is more a product of its time and its campiness.
Yeah. It's a Gremlins knockoff with some really weird alien bounty hunter element to it. It was just fucking weird. But yeah, and then like the third one I think had Leonardo DiCaprio in it. But just looking at these two titles next to each other, thinking sci-fi movies, I don't know. It seems appealing to me. There's something about this idea, and like, don't even have to leave the house to watch this goofy shit. I hope it does come out like a year from now. Let's see. Set to premiere in March of 2019 is Leprechaun. Oh, fuck. Leprechaun Returns, which that's a real winner.
Did you already see the other Leprechaun? Is that the one? No, the other remake of Leprechaun that they did that was supposed to be more serious? I never saw it.
I didn't either. No.
Yeah, I've heard mixed about it.
So this is another one of those.
Yeah, apparently this one, I don't know if it is if it's part of that franchise, or again if it's a reboot, another second reboot.
Yeah, no, it's a second reboot. The other one was in the wake of the dismal Leprechaun origins attempting to take the franchise in a new direction. The Leprechaun series will return proper next year with Leprechaun Returns. Warwick Davis was not brought back to reprise his title role, which is too bad. I think that's the only reason why I would ever say anything kind about the Leprechaun franchise. It's like, Warwick Davis played the Leprechaun.
I love the Leprechaun franchise, and it's garbage. I love it, though. I love everything about it, but they are awful movies.
I need to see Leprechaun in the Hood. That actually seems like one that I would enjoy.
Oh, Leprechaun in the Hood's great. It's an awful movie, but it's great.
I mean, yeah. You kind of get what you
I think I've seen them all except for the reboot.
There's a Tales from the Hood sequel coming out I saw also. Caleb, can you hear that?
I think that's something I will pass on.
Can you hear a leprechaun talking?
Why, let's try a luck and bet on
I can.
If it
you can?
on tails, I'll do as we told.
Yeah, I can hear.
Interesting.
I can definitely hear the audio from Leprechaun.
Well, that's something we'll have to keep in mind. I like that part about this setup. I don't know if you guys notice that everything looks fucking different every single week over here. I got to go get a computer. I haven't made any decisions yet. I'm trying to decide a lot of things, like what I want to get.
We're just being really meta, and this is a reboot of movies are terrible.
Fuck yeah, dude. Definitely. Yes. And I know that I kind of feel bad. We haven't brought the cat into the conversation all of that much. Kitty, do you have anything that you want to say? Shut the fuck up. Shut up, cat. I guess.
Apparently, this reboot, we're shitty shock jocks, too. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah. Oh, shit. Here come the police. Woo, woo, woo.
Now you just get a soundboard.
Yeah, that would probably solve that problem a little better. I'm no Michael Winslow.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I couldn't think of his name.
I was going to say Carl Winslow. That's Family Matters. The police dad on Family Matters, Carl Winslow.
I was like, I've heard that name before. That's why I've heard that name.
So when we went and saw Halloween, I saw the trailer for Pet Sematary for the first time in the theater, and that shit went over pretty well. Victoria looked at me after the trailer just like, oh, fuck. Like, it's creepy, and it's got this, like, pagan aesthetic to it this time because all those little kids doing their burial ritual with their animal masks on. So I think that they're bringing in a lot more of the kind of creepy folklore part of it. I don't know. I've never read the book, so I'm sure there's a lot more shit that wasn't included in the movie to streamline it. In fact, I don't remember the little boy having an older sister in the original.
It's been so many years since I've seen the original. Like I haven't seen those movies probably since I was like 12 years old.
Oh, okay. I like the first one quite a bit. It was very... I don't like use the word upsetting too often, but I remember at the time that I saw it just being floored by how fucking nihilistic and fucked up its view of death are. It's like, we will do this unspeakable thing out of our own selfishness and our own grief, as opposed to just accepting that people that you love die. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that concept is a really cool concept. You know, it's been done since then, and probably before then too. But I think it's a really cool concept. I do agree. The whole selfish angle of it's very interesting.
What was the kid's name? Gage, I think is what his name was, and I'm trying to find.
Gage is because my cousin named his kid Gage after that movie.
Did he really?
Yeah.
See, it's making impressions on people. Zelda, yeah, I remember, creeped a lot of people out. So, yeah, I don't know. This is a reboot that I'm actually excited for. And kind of back to what we were saying with Killer Clowns, like, remake a fucking Stephen King movie all day. I don't give a shit. Like, The Langoliers, Tommyknockers, The Stand, Salem's Lot. Take your pick of them. They were all made for TV garbage movies in the first place, similar to the way that this Critters movie and Killer Clowns are going to turn out. But at the same time, so the new remakes to me, they've got the polish, they've got the big budget treatment. I thought it was fantastic compared to the 90s version. So I say bring the shit on. Like, I would like to see Stephen King material adapted and redone.
I agree with you there. I think they're really bad TV movies, so it's always good to get a big budget treatment of those. For me personally, I would take most of them, even if I and the thing one thing, as much as I gripe about reboots, the thing that I always stand by is, even if there's a reboot and it sucks, you still have the original. It doesn't make that disappear, so you're fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. I should probably back it up and say I do really enjoy all those Stephen King adaptations from watching them as kids, because the stories were good. But going back and seeing them afterwards, it's like, it's hard for me now to just simply get immersed in the story. And I think that's unfortunate. It's just from watching too many fucking movies. But now I pick up on, like, I didn't even really, as a kid, I'm not paying attention to acting. It was all make-believe to me. So I was just like, I just rolled with it, Yeah,
it definitely is. When you watch as many movies as we do, it's kind of hard not to become picky about certain things and read into things. Yeah. And that's just unfortunately, that's part of it, you know? Like you can't enjoy things sometimes that other people might enjoy.
I think I also like to dislike stuff a little bit also.
I don't know if I do. I actually want everything to be good, but ironically, I'm the one who probably dislikes more stuff than
Yeah.
you, so maybe I do. But like,
yeah.
I'm one of those people, like, I hate disliking stuff. Maybe that's why I get so annoyed with stuff, is because I'm like, I want every movie that I watch to just be a 10 out of 10. And that's unrealistic. It's not, there's never going to happen, but
I have a good friend
still.
that's been hitting me up, real in-depth conversations about Halloween over the last couple hours. And like, it was, I think, almost the best version of what it could be. It didn't transcend the genre, and I think that's kind of the thing, is that I think the reason I say that, I think it's unfair to impose certain standards onto movies that you know the limitations because you've already seen it play out over and over again. It's like a Halloween movie, other than the original Halloween, probably can't be a great movie because all it's doing is just following what came before it. It's not paving new ground or going in a different direction, kind of similar to something that you brought up earlier with foreign remakes and reboots being brought over to America and doing something new. But it's all about brand recognition right now. It's all about low budget horror films right now, and people are going to keep on doing it. Do you think that there's going to be a tipping point when the public gets tired of it, or do you think that there's always going to be a dedicated fan base to horror?
Oh, there'll always be. It'll do. I mean, we've seen this happen before, where horror comes in and out of the spotlight. I feel like it's coming back in, but I still don't think it's even reached its peak. We're not having like the horror renaissance of the 80s or the 60s or even the 90s. You know, like we had another little jump in horror. I feel like we're kind of in the stage where it's definitely more than the early 2000s, but I don't think we've even personally seen quite the peak of it. There's definitely interest, but I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem like we're even to the.
Yeah, this might not be the peak. This might not be the very tip top of it, but I do think that I'm trying to think, man. I want to put my finger on an early example of what kind of kicked this off. I know that Don't Breathe and Lights Out did really well, but I want to say specifically it was It Follows. And It Follows kind of kicked off this chain reaction with a couple of studios where they kind of started to compete doing these smaller budget movies, because It Follows was a fucking kind of like a sleeper hit. People that weren't even necessarily like diehard horror fans love that movie, and I definitely like the fact that it's like a Carpenter influenced movie, and it's kind of ambiguous, a little more artsy than a lot of horror movies are. But I didn't love it.
I didn't like it at all, honestly. Like it's very the same thing that like a lot of movies do, where it's the nostalgia play, Stranger Things sort of deal,
sure.
where it's all of that, but at the same time, it's just more of that, and the movie itself is not that good. I don't think. I think it's actually kind of a dumb concept.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it is. It's like we were calling it a STG when me and Victoria walked out. I was like, it was an STD, and she's like, what is that? I was like, a sexually transmitted ghost.
Yeah, it's like, it's stupid as shit, and it's I don't know if it was supposed to be as campy as it was, or if it was just me who saw it in a super campy light.
Yeah, I don't know. There's been a couple that were very beloved by critics, and I think there's often a disconnect where you walk out of a movie like It Comes at Night feeling just defeated and rotten, and then you come out of a movie like Halloween basically cheering, you know, fucking super amped up. And I think that it's interesting, and I think that the slasher genre has been that for a long time. There's the killer that goes around 100%. And murders people, and then the third act is this catharsis of this young and vulnerable girl, becoming empowered, but like literally turning the tables and becoming the hunter as opposed to the prey. And that dynamic itself is always, I think that's always going to have appeal to audiences when you're in a group of people watching it and you're just like, oh, fuck yeah, she's going to fuck you up. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe it's me.
Did you ever see It Comes at Night? Did you ever get around to actually seeing that?
No, I just talk about movies I haven't seen. Why are you going to call me out like that,
Because like,
dude?
that is a fucking amazing film.
I'm sure it is.
I'm just saying. I know we have this conversation.
I know. I'm sure it is. What was another one? The Witch. Great movie, I'm sure. I didn't like it.
Never saw it.
No?
Never saw it. It looks like the type of movie I would probably love, actually.
I'm trying to watch The Apostle right now, and it definitely feels like The Witch and The Wicker Man. And me just saying that I'm trying to watch it sounds like I should probably just fucking give up. But like, I was interested. I was just tired, so I'm gonna put it back on and give it a watch. It's got what's his ass in it? Dan Stevens, who I really liked in The Guest, which was a little cool kind of horror movie, I guess. Another little Carpenter riff movie, though.
I'm trying to think of other. Yeah, I like those type of movies. I definitely need to get around to getting on the ball and watching some of those.
I was final girling you over the question about It Comes at Night. If that makes any sense, I don't know. I'm kind of reaching with my analogies here. So what else,
You're
man? What? I said I'm kind of reaching with my analogies here.
That's how this is how the show works.
So, I don't know. What are some of the? We'll start with some of the best reboots. Damn, that's hard to even think of. Let me pull up a list. That's so hard.
I'd say we're doing like strictly horror film reboots, right?
Yeah.
Some of the best ones.
Yeah.
So I actually would put Friday 13th in that category. I would actually put the first Halloween Rob Zombie for me in that category. I would definitely put The Ring in there as well.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree with you 100% on The Ring. What about Evil Dead? Did you see that?
Hated Evil Dead. Oh, I was so mad when I walked out of the theater.
I really liked the nail gun scene. That shit had me cringing so hard, dude. Anyways, I thought that one was pretty good. The Thing, obviously, 1982's John Carpenter's seminal film, is a remake in itself.
So I'm one of these weird people who saw the original Thing before the remake.
Did you?
And so, I grew up. So the reason, I've probably said this before, the reason I'm into film so much is because of my grandpa. So my grandpa watched all these old black and white films, including like it would be, Abbott and Costello. I mean, all the old horror films. And because of that, I saw the original Ring. I mean, the original Thing first and loved it. And so I was one of these people, I didn't like the Thing when I finally saw the remake, and now I've come across, and that is easily one of the best remakes of horror films ever.
It has a very grotesque aesthetic. I remember seeing it as a kid and just being like, I don't know, man. I don't know about that shit. But I do. I really like it now. The special effects are cool, but they are dated. And I love the fact that they went all practical with it. I thought they really had an opportunity to do something cool with the reboot, the more recent reboot of that. But they just shat all over every bit of potential that movie had, from its casting to the fact that they had shot a lot of it in, in-camera VFX shots and shit. And then they went and slathered it with CGI and like tried to enhance it, but made it look like fucking garbage. But so yeah, that was a bad one. But Piranha, did you see the 2010's Piranha 3D?
No, I did not. It looks like something I might actually love.
I had a lot of fucking fun with that one. It's a movie of its time. I don't know that it would get released tomorrow, you know what I mean? But it definitely was. It knows what it is, and it had a lot of fun with it. Oh, dude, did you see 2010's The Crazies?
Yes, I actually really enjoyed it. So I love the original Crazies and that one. So I think that was a very good remake.
Yeah, that was a good remake. It was sort of like a zombie rage virus type thing, but it was just a little bit different. The fact that it was almost just like they went crazy. Yeah, like the name says. Dawn of the Dead.
The Hills Have Eyes. A good one.
Yeah, that was actually a really good one, man. It's a
They
hard
definitely
watch.
changed it.
Yeah, they did. I did not like A Nightmare on Elm Street. Texas.
I never saw it. I thought the casting was brilliant.
Yeah.
But I never actually watched it.
Yeah, I thought Jackie Earle Haley was a good idea as well. I was like, yeah, that fit makes sense. And the movie just it didn't serve him. And, you know, he may have had potential, but he was just doing Rorschach, I thought. Let's see. They did a Carrie reboot.
Oh, you started to say Dawn of the Dead, and I would agree that that's one of the best remakes.
Oh, yeah. That's Zack Snyder's. Is it his directorial debut?
I believe so. And it's one of those ones that even Zack Snyder haters love.
Yeah.
It's like one of those.
Well, and it's funny. The baby zombie I thought was pretty bold shit.
Yeah, it's great. The Night of the Living Dead remake, the 1991, is it? Tom Savini one?
Yeah.
That's another one that I think we talked about this, criminally underrated.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. I don't know that I would even thought about it, but that is a good example of just taking the previous version and presenting it to a modern audience. I think some people would frown upon how faithful of a remake it is, but I think in that particular circumstance, because of the way that zombies had evolved and because the way they were depicted in the first Night of the Living Dead, I think audiences were more receptive to it, you know? But yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm looking at Dawn of the Dead on IMDb right now, the 2004 version, and the writers credited are George A. Romero and James Gunn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I remembered it being those two, and I remember George A. Romero. I didn't remember James Gunn. Yeah, that's a incredible remake. It's not as good as the first, in my opinion, but the first to me is easily the greatest zombie film of all time. The original, for me, is the hands down, like miles above any other zombie film.
Oh yeah.
But to take literally my favorite zombie film, and well, not even my favorite zombie film, one of my favorite films of all time, and remake it, and me walk out and go, yeah, you made them into running zombies. Yeah, you did all these things that I wouldn't have done, and I loved every second of it. That to me is bold and deserves, praise to be able to do that.
Yeah, and that's kind of goes back to that thing of do you want homage or do you want an original take? And I guess for me, it seems to, so far, there's not really been a rule. It seems like it just kind of depends on the way that it ends up executed. But I think if I had to pick, I would like to see it done in a slightly different way that makes it its own thing than I would rather see a slavish remake of something.
Yeah, it's not like the Psycho remake. It's like a shot-for-shot remake.
Yeah, the Gus Van Sant movie.
Yeah.
People were pissed.
For me, I'm just like, why even recreate it? Like, it's literally the same camera angles and everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a shot-for-shot remake. And I'm like, then just watch the original. Like, I didn't like that take. That's extreme example, though. Can't think of another movie that takes it to that extreme.
Well, and I think a lot of people say that 2007's Halloween is a total deviation from the original, but it feels like it's two movies in one. We've got all of the Michael as a young boy stuff, which takes up at least the first third, the first act of the movie. And then it moves into the Michael as an adult kind of stalking the teens and their storyline through the second act. And then the third act is basically a really condensed recreation of Halloween. Yeah,
I would agree with that. It's definitely like Halloween 1 and 2 kind of all spliced together. And yeah, it took that lore and condensed it into one film. I never saw the second one, which I need to definitely get around to. I'm trying to think of other horror film remakes, though.
I think you will, if what we're talking about right now, and you would prefer to see something that is just totally unique and different from the original, Halloween 2 is nothing if not its own movie. It is fucking bizarre, dude.
That's what I've heard. I've heard very mixed about it. I've heard some people that are like, oh yeah, it's great, and a lot of people that know it is not, that it's a bad film.
Okay, I'm pulling up a list on Thrillist. Always reliable resource right here. Horror remakes that don't suck. The Blob, 1988.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I wouldn't even have thought of that one.
Have you seen it before?
Yeah, I've seen both of them.
There was I've only seen the '88 Blob, and then I remember there was this movie called The Stuff that always kind of was more in my head because it was just so much more outrageous.
Yeah, I've seen The Stuff as well, which is ridiculous. It's one of those. It's just like, why? Why is this a thing?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other movies that are like that. There's some other. Yeah, what are some other remakes? I know we're forgetting something. We have to be.
Scrolling. The Fly, the 1986 David Cronenberg
Oh,
update.
yes. How could I forget that? That is probably, for me, the horror film remake.
It's a good one. It's so much better than the original to me, and I have actually seen the original The Fly there, yeah.
Me too. The Vincent Price one, that's a bad movie. I love it, but it's a bad movie.
It's just really profoundly silly. Like the end of it is just like, oh, all right, okay. And maybe it freaked people out at the time. Yeah. Little bug man. I think it's okay to spoil it. He's all like, kill me. It's like stuck in a spider web. So we talked about Friday the 13th. There was one that I liked that starred the late Anton Yelchin called Fright Night, and Colin Farrell was in it. Did you see that?
I never did. That's filmed in my hometown. I never saw it.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, so I never even got into it. That's actually where my parents still live, in the area, kind of.
So well, were you there in 2011?
Yeah, I was still living there at the time that it was being filmed. I was also in Odd Thomas, the movie Odd Thomas. I was working in that mall while they were filming it, and I met, what the hell's his name?
Anton Yelchin?
The guy. No, not him. Well, I saw him. I didn't meet him. I met the girl, the black girl, and then I met the director of Odd Thomas. Why can I not think of the name? But anyway, yeah, that.
That's cool.
The Stephen Sommers, yeah, or Sommers, or however you say his name is. Yeah, so now New Mexico, they film a lot of movies there. So
I didn't realize that. I watched Get Shorty, and they kind of joke about doing it in Nevada, but I guess Nevada is different from New Mexico. But I guess it's because they're moving from they're moving from Hollywood over there. But yeah, they act like would not be an ideal situation because of the desert and the wind and the dust and shit. But I guess it wasn't like that over in New Mexico where you were at.
Windy? Oh yeah, it's windy and it's dusty, and but as long as you're in the city, it's contained because there's not as much dust.
Oh, dude, here's one that I really like. 1978's Invasion of the Body Snatchers with Donald Sutherland.
I've actually never seen that film.
Oh, it's good. It's good. It's, I think, superior to the original, and it's one that I saw as a kid that really did disturb me. I think right there in the 70s, that was a sweet spot for good horror movies. Like right from... I don't know. We'll say from 1970 to 1980, there was a lot of... Well, fuck, dude. It really did go on.
Yeah, that was
all the way through. The 80s anyways, you know? It was just...
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of time. Well, I think, too, I think the 60s through the 80s was good, and they all had a different feel. Like, the 60s was a very weird vibe, and then the 70s was a little different, and the 80s was really that slasher, crazy...
Everything was over the top. Everything was over the top. In the 70s, I think they had a little more artistic merit to them, whether we're talking about The Exorcist or fucking Rosemary's Baby or any of The Shining, a lot of the classics. The Shining was 1980, but it still has that 70s vibe to it. It hadn't quite, it was probably in production in the fucking 70s, you know?
No, The Shining feels like a 70s movie, 100%.
Oh, Elijah Wood was in a 2012 remake of Maniac.
Oh, I love that movie. Everyone hates it, and I love that movie.
It's fucked up. I enjoyed watching it because it is just, it's definitely exploitation, and it definitely does a weird job of making you sympathize with Elijah Wood a lot more than the original one did.
Yeah, it's one of those films I actually really, really enjoy that everyone I know hates, but I think it's brilliant. I think it's weird. I think it's fucked up. I think it's being shot from a first-person perspective. I think everything about that movie is brilliant.
So did you see the 2009 My Bloody Valentine?
I did. That's the one that was 3D.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah.
It's the one that had the topless chase scene in 3D, and I remember just reveling in the exploitation of it and just being like, man, all movies need to be like this. Like, this is fucking
We just
ridiculous.
need more 3D boobs.
Yeah, it was like they know what you're fucking in there for. These slasher movies, it's always been the same, and our sensibilities are just so different now. That's why I just don't know if society has just moved past that whole approach to I mean, I guess Halloween kind of proved that they still do put out good ones, but let's see what else. Night of the Living Dead that you brought up. Okay, 1979's Nosferatu the Vampire. That was done by what's the guy's name? F.W. Murnau. Oh, Werner Herzog. That's right. Directed it.
Yeah, that's another one. Again, never saw. I've seen the original, but never saw.
Yeah, that one.
The remake.
That 1922 one is definitely iconic. It's definitely earned its place in pop culture.
Mm-hmm. And it's good. I like the original. I'm not as into it as a lot of people are, but I like it. It's a good film.
2003's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Jessica Biel.
Absolutely love that movie.
Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
I saw it in the theater and I enjoyed it pretty good.
Yeah, to me, it's every bit as good as the original.
What? That's that first one is definitely something to me.
See, for me, that movie is I like it. But that's another one that I felt was pretty faithful to that movie. That remake was.
It was.
Yeah.
There's something about
it even
the
has
way...
that iconic scene where he slides the door.
Yeah, absolutely. The weird scoring and the decision not to use music in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, and then the fact that they use such shitty cameras, it gives it this like almost found footage documentary style feel to it, and the kills are like, they're not really sensational, they're just fucking brutal. Like that scene you're talking about where he just opens up that sliding steel door, clubs that dude with, I don't know, I guess it was a hammer, so like a ball hammer or some shit, or and then just drags him in there, slams the door shut, and that's it. It's like, it's not pageantry in the way that it was in a lot of slasher movies in the 80s, where it would be something elaborate, where like Jason would stick some dude's head into a light bulb and his eyes and his mouth would start sparking and glowing, then his head would fucking explode. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I think that is the appeal of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's the same genre, just takes itself a little bit more serious.
Yeah, for sure. And it was right, the precursor to that. A lot of people debate what the first slasher movie was. Do you got any insight or opinion on that?
I don't. Yeah, I was like, that's something that I would not be versed enough to talk about.
Maybe Psycho. Because it shows the hand of the killer in the shower doing the motions.
Yeah, I think you could definitely make an argument for Psycho.
A lot of people claim that that's really, really the first. A lot of people also say Halloween is the first. And I think Halloween is definitely it became the template for the slasher movie moving forward. It was like Halloween set the standard for what, because Dario Argento and Mario Bava were doing giallo films in Italy in the 1960s and 1970s that had similar elements, but they were way more like Agatha Christie stories, where the killer was very much just like a murder mystery. They're a member of this group or somebody that was scorned previously, that kind of shit, where these slasher movies of the 80s took the killers to mythic levels where they were invincible and could never die and all that shit.
Yeah, I would say I definitely wouldn't say Halloween is the first slasher film, but I would agree it's changed them to the point. It's okay. It's literally like how Night of the Living Dead isn't the first zombie film. There's those old voodoo zombie films.
Yeah, good
but
point.
Night of the Living Dead is the first zombie film. That's kind of where I put Halloween in that same category.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The other ones, they're there, but they just like kind of exist outside of that really defined, I guess, tropes. Back to what we were talking about with the Asian horror movies, and I guess we'll wrap it up. This was a good conversation. I think we covered some good stuff. I think we covered some bad stuff, and I think we pretty much kept the cat entertained the whole time.
Yeah, that's good. As long as the cat's entertained.
I mean, he's been chilling. That's more than I can say for my cat. He's fucking running around, being all cat-like.
I'm being a little shit.
Yeah. All right, Caleb. Well, thank you for stopping by again to talk a little bit about movies. And we got one more show before the end of October. And do you know what day of the week it falls?
Does it really fall on Halloween?
Yeah, we'll figure out what we're gonna do. You're probably gonna go do something.
I honestly don't know. We had this conversation on People Are Terrible. I'm not really into like Halloween parties.
We did talk. I don't know if I am. Maybe we can stream earlier, because God forbid we pre-record it and then stream it live.
I was like, that's what we can do. We'll just pre-record it and then we'll do it on like Sunday.
Yeah, and I'll check the chat on my cell phone, guys, so that we can still be interactive. But I'll just be doing it from a fun place.
I won't check the chat. So.
I'll be trick or
treating. I'll be playing a video game, so I'm not checking it because Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out on Friday. So that's my next slide.
That shit looks so amazing. I mean, you've been looking forward to this for a couple of years, I'd imagine, right?
I've been looking forward to it since I finished beating the last one. Like, that's how much I've looked forward. It's one of my favorite games of all time, the last one. I already have it pre-downloaded, just sitting there with a timer that says, I'll give it 1 day, 2 hours, and 48 minutes left until I can play it.
It's going to be a phenomenon, right? Like, it's going to be, I think it's going to be something that breaks through. I mean, Spider-Man 4 was a pretty big sensation among gamers, but I think that there's going to be something about Red Dead 2 that really
this is going to hit Grand Theft Auto 5 level. Like, it's going to be one of the biggest games of all time.
I think so. But how does a game like Grand Theft Auto stack up against something like COD or something like Fortnite? I mean, are they just totally different playing fields at this point? I sounded drunk. At this point.
Yeah. Yes and no. So obviously for me, Grand Theft Auto GTA has always been a single player experience. It's more for the story. Same thing with Red Dead, but now they both have online mode. Same thing with Red Dead, and GTA 5 is always in the top 10. It seems like of NPD sales month after month after month after month.
I see. Well, yeah,
like people just buy that game nonstop.
I wish I could just buy a console for Red Dead Redemption, but if I get a good enough graphics card and computer, I think it'll eventually be available on PC a couple months after it launches on console.
I would assume, especially because now the way Microsoft's doing everything, where pretty much all their games are available, you know?
Yeah, yep. All right, guys. Well, we do appreciate you stopping by. Head over and subscribe to People Are Terrible on YouTube, and Caleb Says Stuff as well. Caleb, you've been watching some anime lately?
I've just been catching up on Naruto because I have like 100 episodes left, and I'm like, I just need to finish it. I got it tattooed on my damn skin. I need to finish it at this point.
Well, to be fair, there are like fucking hundreds of episodes, right?
Oh, there's like thousands.
That's so crazy. I knew that, but I'd never have looked at the extent of it. They're all on Netflix too, right?
They're all on Hulu.
Hulu, that's
all
right.
of them. Yeah.
Holy fuck.
So, and I started watching the show, just to give you an idea, I started watching it the week after it aired in Japan. I was 15 or 16 years old at the time this show started, and it just ended like last year.
That's crazy. And they're like big full seasons too, like not little
they're like 40 episodes a season.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. And it's ridiculous.
Well, I'll talk to you soon. We'll get up and talk soon.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Anticlimactic ending. Bye.